Hey, everybody listening for the first time, welcome to Don't Ask an Agent, a podcast where we are looking to unpack the stories of people that come behind the numbers in the real estate industry. Let me introduce myself. My name is Cameron, and this is my friend and co host.
Hi, my name is Joseph, and yeah, welcome to Don't Ask an Agent.
So, Joseph, as we're kind of diving in here, um, I know we've talked a lot about real estate things kind of leading into this, but tell us a little bit about you. Where is it? Where's home? Where do you call home now? Um, you know, t- so Joseph, tell us a
We're
little bit about
great.
you. cut, cut. Okay, so Joseph, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name is Joseph, and I live in Surrey, a suburb of the greater Vancouver area. I've lived there for quite a long time. I rented in Surrey at first when I finished my master's degree, and then my wife and I bought a condo in Surrey. We have a two-bed, two-bath condo, and um, we also have a daughter who's 4 years old, and she's going to be going into kindergarten next year. So it's an exciting step for her. And, we're sort of that prototypical family that, was looking into the real estate market. We kind of did all the right things. When we were looking 6 years ago, we were living in a studio apartment and we needed something bigger. We had the money for a down payment. So we looked and made a decision about finding a home that was affordable, that didn't go over that one third of your income, all the right things, checking off all the things they say you should do, right? And always at that point in time, the dream was always, okay, you're going to buy a condo. This isn't your forever home. This is something you'll be in for 5 years. And then we'll look at that townhouse, or maybe we could look at that detached home and do the fiscally responsible thing and make those decisions. And obviously, as the years went on, and as the housing market changed, that dream of going from condo to townhouse to detached home, that wasn't a plan anymore. That was just a dream. It was something that increasingly feels less and less achievable for us or for anyone. And
Yeah.
so that sort of in a nutshell, a bit of the story of our housing journey is, okay, we were renters. We took the time to jump into the market, and tried to do it in a responsible way. We've never over leveraged ourselves. We've always prided ourselves on, being able to afford what we purchased. And now we're sort of stuck in this no man's land of, well, we need to expand. Our family has grown. We need more space. We'd like to have some more amenities and stuff in our life, and not really seeing that path forward. And also, getting sort of the runaround from the real estate industry. Obviously the statistics are all there, the numbers are all there, the information is all there, but the story that you're told when you're kind of going through this process is, 1 week, well, the market's really cold, so there's not a lot of stuff out there. And then the next week, well, things are picking up, we should be looking. And just hearing all of these different stories and hearing all this stuff, and just looking at the raw reality and just being like, I can't afford $1 million townhouse. I make good money and I can't afford a million
A
dollar
million dollars.
townhouse.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like the market is what? Like the statistics are this, year over year homes are this. None of that is relevant to my story. None of that is relevant to me. How is that helpful in just kind of dealing with the frustration of existing in that space? And that's sort of, again, in a nutshell, what my housing story has been to this point. And it's what got me interested when we first started talking, Cameron. It's what got me interested in, obviously we've known each other for quite some time now. I
Yeah,
like
so
to
I was
think
gonna
of
say
life.
this leads into the next question, which is
Yeah.
this what got you interested in hosting our crazy idea?
I mean, to an extent, it is. And when I first met you, obviously you were working much more heavily in real estate than, and you you were kind of talking about these things in the market and giving a lot of information. We had a lot of really good conversation and a lot of really good, I'd like to say, actually arguments about
Fair.
about different elements of the real estate market, and just through that process, I think we were able to kind of get a good dialogue going around about how um, so much of what is told to us about the real estate market today is the statistics, the numbers, the sort of these things that they put on paper and they say and they report that don't reflect the true story, that don't reflect the reality for the people in situations like ourselves. Um, and that was frustrating. And it's not just something, in my day job, I'm a social worker. And I see it there too. I see the way that the real estate market is about more like, sure, we can talk about record growth and how great that is and all of those things. But it doesn't tell the reality of that person who's struggling to get by, or the individual that needs supports and services from a specialist, and their specialist moves to Calgary because they can't afford to live here. Those are the stories that are behind the numbers. Those are the things that you're not hearing from your real estate agent. You're not hearing that in the media. You're not seeing those things. And I felt very passionately that those are things that we do need to be talking about. So when you kind of suggested, hey, let's talk more about this, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think this is a story that needs to be told. These are voices out there in the community that need to be heard.
Yeah.
And I was really on board with that. And
Yeah.
now I'm going to turn the tables on you and get you to tell me a little bit more about your family and
I live
what's
in an
your housing situation.
What's my housing situation? I live with my new fiance.
Yes,
In
congratulations
Yes,
again, by the
thank
way.
you. So that'll change, I guess, as the recordings go on. It'll go from fiance to wife.
We'll just
Um,
edit it out. We'll just be like,
we'll we'll
wife.
we'll come back and just overlay that on this later. But so we live in a condo in Burnaby, and it's a very different situation for anybody who's outside of the Metro Vancouver area. Burnaby is like a slightly nicer suburb of Vancouver. I mean, nicer than Surrey. Just picking on Surrey.
Hey, those are
Uh,
shots fired there.
Absolutely. But if it makes you feel better, I grew up in Surrey. Like that was my old stomping ground when I
I
was
know
in high school.
we did the role reversal. I grew up on that side of the bridge and I came over here. You grew up over here and went
This,
over there. It's
yeah,
ships passing in the night.
move up and move down. Ha!
Yeah, gonna get all the
um,
Surrey haters out there.
hey, it was a great place to grow up, but it certainly changed over time. A little differently, I have made a career out of real estate, or at least in the real estate industry.
Hmm.
I did a number of years in sales. I've done some sort of random consulting gigs. I've done some management and agent training and development, as well as recruiting on the sort of more running the office side of things. Today, I do some consulting and work on a few sort of business projects in and around real estate. Um, but all of that experience kind of coalesced to this because I have been steeped in real estate data for
Hmm. Yeah,
10, 12 years now. And
you've lived and breathed those numbers, those statistics, those.
absolutely, I mean, I used to walk around and I would have 12 months worth of stats almost memorized. And it was great for like the sales side of things and being a knowledgeable professional. But as I worked more and more with individuals in that, and then as I started to train realtors on how to do sales and how to find clients, but also how to serve clients, that became just led me to these disconnects where we talk about interest rates and we talk about the economy and we talk about these big giant concepts, and those concepts are sanitized of what that really means to what's happening in somebody's life.
Yeah.
Those concepts are sanitized of the person who's going through a separation at the wrong time when the market isn't in their favor. They're sanitized of you know the interest rates climb, but what nobody's talking about is, yeah, my mortgage has gone up, but so have all my other debts, and now suddenly, where I had a good job and I was kind of making a little headway, I'm now slowly backsliding deeper and deeper in debt, and the future I had was is eroded. Or the story like you told about you, where it was like, yeah, we got a condo and then we were going to get a townhouse, and then the distance, like the gap in pricing, went from like 50 grand, which was doable, to 100 to 200 to 3 to 4 or 500,000.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about I'm moving from Surrey to like Cole Harbor. I mean, I'm moving
Oh,
from my
this is moving
neighborhood,
across the street. This is not
right,
even
3 blocks.
neighborhoods. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm moving 3 blocks to an old building, it's just not viable. And I've watched people succeed and have, stunning positive outcomes here in the real estate shift. And I've seen people struggle and slip behind. I mean, I had a place, I lost a home in a separation, and that knocked me out of the market for the better part of almost 10 years. It took me 10 years to recover. And some of that was sort of the timing of it. But as I just got ready in a position to buy back in again, the market took off on me, and I was suddenly held out. And then I had to struggle to get myself back on. And I've had to take some somewhat creative approaches to getting back in. So my housing story is one of sort of, I had it all together, like everything, and we bought the place, and I went to school and did all the right stuff just like you, and then it eroded, and then I've had to come at it again and start over in my 30s, and here I am just getting back in, and now I'm living a
Yeah.
different kind of success story. Where my partner, she's really really savvy and really skilled in her background, and is actually looking to is started an investment portfolio and is doing stunningly well. But it's not by doing the typical stuff. It's by going farther, and we've sort of taken little bits and insights from each other to push ourselves forward. Um, so the interest for me in the podcast is precisely that. Like, I've had a slow collection of these stories over time, but there are so many more. And the data that we get steeped in, and the data that gets pumped through the media, is just devoid of meaning. And when I hear about, I think like my very first ever client that I ever worked with as a realtor, she was selling her home in a hot market, and the story of her was, she's giving up a property that she had lived in Burnaby for years. And she'd raised her family there, and she'd taken care of her aging husband there as he was sort of passing away. And she'd now gotten health problems that meant she couldn't handle the stairs and had to go out. And that's not reflected in the data. Her motivation isn't captured, her life struggles aren't captured, and yet somehow you've got to come in and say, well, this is what the numbers are, that's what you should do. And I mean, I think there's a lot of value, and I've seen this too, when we start to humanize the process, where it's not just that I'm a buyer, a disinterested or rational buyer who's going to come in and pay you a rational, all these justified prices. But when we connect people and we actually work with them in a way where, hey, we have goals in life. I mean, I want to get the townhouse to expand my family or have more space to raise my kids. And I need to get out of here because I'm in a place where I need to downsize to take care of myself better. And we start to
Yeah.
match those goals up. And when we humanize the process, that is where the most wonderful parts, and I think the best nature of people, come out. And I'm even helping a friend right now, just sort of quietly consulting, for a very close friend of mine, as she's kind of entering into this and getting all these cautionary tales about don't say this and don't do that. And yet at the same time, there's this drive to connect these two people, because she's in a process of selling and buying. And the place that she's found is just that, somebody who wants to downsize, but she's got deadlines, and this other person wants longer timelines. And it's like, well, what if we just agree to work together and we can come to a mutually agreeable situation
Yeah.
that actually takes us where we both want to go, and we can find a way forward. and we can be creative and start with each other with trust rather than, reason and disinterest and all of these other things that kind of get in the way of people being people, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
I want to
and
capture
again,
that.
that's the stories, right? These are the
Yeah.
stories that, and I think you and I both kind of, we have different backgrounds when it comes to real estate, and we have different backgrounds when it comes to our understanding of the system. But at the end of the day, we both have kind of seen that, the information that the real estate agents out there have today is very data driven. It's very much driven by those statistics. It's very much driven by the the numbers that are out there. And if we don't have these stories, if we don't have this personal element sort of informing what's going on and being able to share the stories of people that are experiencing this and are, for lack of a better word, in the trenches of the real estate market, um, then that's information that just, yes, the one-off realtor, you have these stories, you can see them, but it's not anywhere out there. It's not something that can kind of help a new real estate agent kind of learn, like, hey, there's this negotiation piece that I can do where I can work with these two parties to kind of come up with a creative solution, or we can kind of come together and be creative on achieving people's housing goals, because there are ways to achieve housing goals even in a market like the Greater Vancouver market. Um, but that's often not the information that's being passed on, either to the real estate agents or to the buyers, the clients, the buyers and sellers. Um, we're too steeped in the number and the top 1% and this and that,
This,
and
yeah.
we're missing out on the human element. And I want you to kind of, we're kind of talked about our housing stories, and I want you to talk a little bit about where "Don't Ask an Agent" comes from. That name right there, I want you to kind of, because it was an excellent name that you had, and I want you to kind of talk about it. And I don't think it's a controversial thing. I don't think it's a controversial thing to say "Don't ask an agent," because I don't think it's intended that way. But
No,
I
I
want
mean,
you to kind of
yeah, it
touch
was
on it.
never intended. I mean, it was a little bit of a creative idea
A little
that kind
tongue
of
in cheek.
spurred a little tongue in cheek, but the idea behind, what we were doing was to sort of get away from professional conversations. Because not because those professionals don't add valuable insight
Hmm.
or don't add, knowledge and expertise and experience. They absolutely do. I mean, I've been one,
Yeah,
I've worked with many of them. It's my career. But when we say don't ask an agent, what we want to do is if we're not going to ask them, who are we gonna learn from? And the answer was, the answer for me is we're going to learn from each other. So
yeah,
this is, think about it this way, some of the interviews that we've started to do and that we're going to be releasing soon, those interviews have these wonderful insights about how we decided to come to sell our home, or what this meant for my family, or how this has changed my life, or how this has helped me financially, or how this has punished me financially. And I think there is so much learning to be done in the individual situations that real people have gone through, where we're all going to learn something, because you're going to see a little bit of your story in them,
yeah,
or you're going to see a little bit of your challenge that somebody else has solved by doing something. And what's interesting is there are so many stories like this in just in Metro Vancouver, but around, Canada, the US, or the world over, where we're all solving this problem as individuals about how do I put a roof over my head? How do I build a life? And this is a cornerstone element of it. And so we hope that, not only if you're interested, we'd love to have you on and hear your story. Even if you think your story might have been told by somebody else, yours is
yeah. We
unique
still
because it
we
comes,
still
yeah.
want to hear from you. Yeah,
And so we want to capture that and basically just engage with each other rather than going to the authorities on high. we know that they're producing the data and the information, and we can all go look at it, locally or across a province or a state or across the nation, and we can get that stuff. And it's, search Google for 5 minutes, and you will find all the real estate data you can imagine. But what you cannot find is, how buying this home put stress on my marriage, or you know, how changing my jobs forced me to do something I never thought I would ever do, which is, buy a second property, or even some great investing stories, because people are looking
Yeah.
to do that these days, right? So there's just this wonderful opportunity to pick up on individuals, and to actually get some context. And we hope you find that interesting. We hope you find that very interesting. I'm just kind of curious, Joseph. I know we met, and this is a plug for I think both of our favorite cafes, but we bumped into each other, what, I guess a few years ago now at Finest Cup.
Yeah, it was I think it's gotta be at least 3 years now. Is it?
Yeah, because we were
I
both
think it's got to be
long-term
at
regulars.
least, yeah, it's at least 3 years ago. But great opportunity for the plug, Cameron. We are not sponsored, but Dereje, if you want to give us a free coffee next time we're there, we won't say no. But Finest Cup Coffee in Surrey, in the Fleetwood neighborhood. It's a wonderful little local coffee shop. Again, not sponsored. We just love going there so much. So if you don't feel comfortable coming on a podcast and talking about your story, drop by. You're probably going to see
See
one or
one of
both of us
us,
there.
but
You feel free to kind of connect and share your
well,
story, share your thoughts.
I think there was a little bit of, it was a kind of serendipity that sort of happened there, because I did
Mm-hmm.
not know how close we were in life for so long, but never
Mm-hmm.
met.
Just
It was kind of
again,
strange.
that statement, ships passing in the night, it really does kind of, we've shared some of the same professors, some of the same experiences, and we were at different times and in different places, but the serendipity was there, and again, it
We
was,
even have some of the same friends, or at least had some of the same friends when we were both in university.
which was kind of wild.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
for anybody listening, both of us went to SFU after high school.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us had some of the same professors at different times, with the same, telling the same jokes. Both of us started out, I mean, I was actually on my way to becoming a teacher, but I never went all the way. I switched into real estate. But both of us were sort of in very much more socially oriented
Oh, I
professions.
still am. I still have a conscience, even though you were seduced by the dark side.
Come to the
You were
capitalist
seduced
zone.
by the dark side of make money.
No, no, that's not it. I actually, my coming into real estate story is, I realized that I don't want to deal with the bureaucracy of teaching. What should I do? Oh no, I guess I'll be a realtor. That was a lot. That's a lot closer to the truth than I'd like to admit.
I think we're gonna have to dig into that story a little bit more in depth sometime, Cameron. I think we'll have to do an episode on
Okay,
it.
we can do that. But it was just sort of an interesting point of serendipity. So we met at this cafe. We both seen each other in there a bit and just
Mhm.
started chatting. And then it turns out that we know a bunch of the same people and have lived these almost parallel lives. And then had this strange interest in in real estate. I turned mine into career, and Joseph has sort of suffered alongside of it, going, "Why?"
Yeah,
uh,
that is true. The whys are still there, but as you put so kind of clearly there, Cameron. The intention of having these stories out there is to I hate that tech companies all do this these days. They all democratize this, democratize that, but to an extent there is a need to um, you know allow people to participate in the real estate market, no matter where they're coming from. We all deserve to have a presence, whether we're renters, whether we're buying, whether we're selling, whatever that is. We all have a right to be in this market because it impacts all of us. It impacts every level of our lives. And the more we can share and talk to each other about these things, the more we're going to be able to grow and work together. And it doesn't have to be a competitive thing where someone wins and someone loses, in a time when the market is hard and let's face it, that's what we're in. Um, creative solutions, creative strategies is the way that we're going to need to do this. So
Yeah. Well,
I'm hopeful to hear those things.
the interesting thing about the market is hard. It doesn't matter. So there's a in our most recent memories, our COVID real estate market memories, the market is somehow easy, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And I experienced this working with a lot of realtors at that time, is they would very happily tell a buyer, hey, if you want to buy a home, get ready to spend $100,000 to $200,000 over your budget. As the market shifted, and I'm still working with those same agents, they became really sheepish and really nervous to tell a seller, hey, uh, I know your expectation is here, but get ready. You're going to have to take $100,000 to $200,000 less. And it was a very interesting thing because they were very, confident about telling a buyer that's just what you need to do. And then they became
Not
very
so confident of
not so
telling a
confident was telling a
seller. Yeah.
seller. And I'm going, but this is the same conversation you had with that group of people for the last couple of years. Well, this is just the way it is. And it was almost a cavalier conversation. And now that same conversation is being approached totally differently. And I'm going, I don't, there's a disconnect in that for me. And there still is among others.
And we'll get into that when we get into some of these conversations with people, because we've heard some very strong opinions about real estate professionals out there. But we'll get into that. Some very good, some very bad. And I think that the sort of where a lot of these things come from is people get frustrated when the messaging seems disconnected from the reality or from their experience or from their story. And
Yeah.
there's this sort of almost pressure to engage in the real estate market in a way that is almost not the same way we would engage in anything else, right? We almost feel like we have to tell a lie about ourselves, about our own success, about our own ability in order to be taken seriously, right? Well, oh, I can afford it. I make good money. I do this. You got to present yourself in a particular way, and then the agent is presenting themselves in a particular way, and then the seller, and it's all of these stories that are kind of feel disconnected from the reality that we're experiencing when we talk about real estate. And so hopefully we have an opportunity to shift that perspective a little bit and really allow people to see some things that they may not have seen and hear some things they may not have heard. I think
Yeah.
that's if we could do that, then I'm very happy about doing this.
Me as well. Me too. And again, I'm going to put this back out there for anybody listening to this episode. Um, we've got a lineup of interviews that we've done at this point, and that we're going to continue to be doing. But if you are interested in having your housing story told, if you'd like to participate in this and have your voice added to this conversation, just reach out. There's going to be all the usual links and connections all over the place. Um, just to give you guys some context, we're doing this because we think it's the right thing to do. Is it? We're not high tech producing podcasting.
We are definitely not.
We are definitely not high tech, but you know what? I don't think it matters. I think the stories being told is more important than our production values here, and we'd just love to have you participating in this conversation. I believe that everybody has an interesting story about housing. I've certainly experienced that with almost every single client. Actually, I shouldn't say almost. It is every single client I've ever worked with, whether they're a homeowner or a home buyer or a renter. But even the realtors themselves have really interesting housing stories that they've been a part of and have witnessed or gone through themselves personally because they buy and sell their own homes too, right? So we'd love to have your story told on here. So we want to be open and connecting with people one on one and adding your perspective on the data, adding your perspective on the market as a whole or what your experience has been. And I want you to know that while it might not seem like much to you, it's just been a struggle or it's been just an easy cakewalk or whatever that experience has been, someone else is also going to take away from
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
Someone else is going to
100%.
get something out of what you share. So
100%.
this is our open invitation to anybody to come in and talk to us and share your story.
Yeah.
So
So
I think with that said, are we ready to wrap?
I think we are. See, we're so professional. We've got this wrapped down to a T.
Down to a
We do
T.
have an email. It is don'taskanagent@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us on there, or like we said, catch us at Finest Cup. We'll be there. If
Yeah,
you show up, more than likely you're going to find one of the two of us there.
that
So,
yeah, it's maybe a bit of a bad habit. Or a good
no,
habit, I'm not sure.
it's a great habit.
It's a great habit.
Caffeination is perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody who made it all the way through our first little intro here. We're looking forward to sharing some of these great stories that are upcoming. We're looking forward to adding your story to this as well. So have a great day, everybody.
Have an awesome day.